So the Boys on the Tracks case clearly showed us that there is major corruption in Arkansas, but could it also be in Indiana? More specifically, in Delphi. Okay, so if you saw the first two parts of this, it is on The Boys on the Tracks, which is a fabulous story. And if you didn't watch it and you want to watch it from somebody else, go ahead. But please sign that petition. My goodness, I have just been fascinated by this case and horrified. So I'm not going to recap it, but let me add one more thing before we get into Delphi about the Boys on the Tracks. Back at that time, you know, we talked about the drug drops with Barry Seal and the whole drug trafficking fiasco. Strangely enough, they had other boys die on the tracks. It seemed like there was always two, and they were either juveniles or very young adults. Apparently during this time, the years right before and right after, everybody just decided to lay down on train tracks. It was a phenomenon. Yeah, sure it was. It was pretty much proved that they all had drug ties, so there you go. After the Boys on the Tracks, really started to get a lot of coverage and a lot of questions, people decided that they had to get more creative with their jobs and, find another way for people to... It actually made a triangle, and I will leave a link below to Carnage on Ice that shows you the triangle, what he calls the triangle of death. And that was back at this time. So now let's bring this forward. After the whole Barry Seal, Iran-Contra, drugs for guns, the whole thing, it put a cramp in a lot of people's businesses, okay? So my question is, do you think that these dealers and traffickers just decided to say, oh, well, we've been busted. I guess we just have to go back to working for minimum wage or, whatever. No. They just found a better way to trade. You understand what I'm saying? Remember, Dan Harmon, who was the special prosecutor, attorney, whatever, he got busted for drug trafficking via corrupt officials. Now, this is in Arkansas. Delphi is only 600 and something miles away, roughly a 10-hour drive. Just a hop, skip, and a jump in a little plane. I'm just saying. Let's talk about the similarities. Now, Indiana is well known for trafficking a lot of things. Let me just tell you, because, I live in a rural area, and does this happen here? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. People who are very rural, don't have a high level of education. Please don't misunderstand me. If you're not college educated, I'm not saying that you are subpar. What I'm saying is that the jobs that you get, no matter what your intelligence level is, are going to pay most likely a little bit less. You can live like that, or you can live like a king if you want to get into the trafficking business. It is a big problem. As a matter of fact, I just talked to one of my daughter's friends who happens to be from Indiana, started talking about the drugs and human trafficking in Indiana, and she's like, oh yeah, we all know that. She said, when I lived there, my parents said, you need to be careful because... And so it's not a secret. Drug trading is not a secret. In Delphi, it was not a secret. Let's go to some of the local plants and look, I'm not going to rat anybody out, but you can, if you dig around just a little bit, you're going to find some sources that talk about drugs coming into the local plants. There are several plants that several suspects have worked at, been affiliated with. I'm not even going to say it's speculation. It's confirmation that drugs flow freely through these plants. It happens everywhere, so I'm not just saying it's just Indiana. I'm going to tread lightly here because I don't want to shame families, okay? And I don't want to accuse families. That being said, there are some facts that we know. We know that Cody Patty had a drug history. We know that Libby was being raised by her grandparents. There were drug problems in the families. I don't know what their situation was at the time of the murders. But you can't help but wonder, did something go wrong in business, in payment? I've seen people in my area get offed for $40. So was there something going on, an unpaid debt or some kind of... There's a lot of people speculating. There's a lot of rumors. I don't really want to get too much into rumor, but I think that's one of the things that could be a possibility. As for a motive, these are some real questions that I have. In the beginning of Delphi, they said there was so much evidence, it was kind of bizarre, but there was so much evidence, they felt like this case would be solved in just a few days. Now, I honestly think it was. Come at me if you want to, but I believe in my heart that law enforcement knows exactly who the players are. Maybe not every single one, but I think they know who is involved, and therefore we've got a boys on the track situation. Zip it. I mean, how many times can you have all these agencies? You've not only got the local police department, you've got the state police, you've got the FBI, and nobody can solve this case. It took 5.5 years to even have a suspect in jail. I'm not buying it. I'm just not. I truly believe they know who is responsible. And let's talk about Richard Allen and Shane Smith. Remember, Shane Smith was Boys on the Tracks. He was actually given a 10-year sentence for unaliving Keith McCaskill. Basically, he said, I saw what happened, and they said, oh, you look like a good candidate for a killer to us, even though physically there's no way you could have taken down a man like Keith McCaskill. I waffle back and forth on Richard Allen. Some days I think he's completely innocent and he's a patsy, and other days I think, he might have been involved. So nothing with me is set in stone. I am way more leaning to believing that he is just being set up. But I could change my mind tomorrow. Like, look, he is a perfect patsy. You know, he said he was there. You can go back. You know, let's just say, hypothetically, you know who did this, but you don't want to, or you can't, either they've got too many higher up ties, whatever. You can't bring them to justice, but you have to appease the people. Let's get this guy over here, right? And it doesn't matter if he's exonerated or if he is convicted, to the powers that be, because if he's exonerated, they can just say, well, we got your guy for you. It was just the legal system failed us. Still, police have clean hands, right? If he's convicted, then they say, you know, hey, we got your guy. Justice prevailed. If Richard Allen is exonerated, they're still going to have a lot on their hands because they have basically ruined his life. So, but you know, as you can see with the other cases, it doesn't seem to matter, does it? Let's talk about law enforcement. Okay, we already know Mike Thomas tried to say from the very beginning, hey, this ain't right. You need to, like, you're missing a lot of stuff. Then when he rightfully... Look, the way the sheriff's office works, like, you know who's pretty much going to go in. You know who's down next in line. And he would have been next in line to be sheriff of, you know, Carroll County. However, when he started pushing back and saying, hey, you're missing stuff. We need to call in some other people, and you're ignoring this other evidence. You know, he gets demoted. He tries to bring it up. He wants to run for sheriff, and he's shut down. He gets demoted. You know, where have we seen this before? We have Liggett, who is right up there with Tobe Lazenby saying, oh yeah, this is great. You know, we're law enforcement. We're doing everything we can. We're going to solve this case. Now, strangely enough, when it comes time for the election, let's call it what it is. Ta-da! we have arrested Richard Allen. And, it has nothing to do with the sheriff's election. Now, yes, Tobe wasn't running, but Liggett was. That is his legacy, okay? And think about this. If Tobe is covering up anything in any way, shape, or form, no matter how small, he would not want Mike Thomas in that position, because Mike Thomas has already said, I'm going to blow this open. I'm going to get some other people in here. Liggett, on the other hand, is following Lazenby. So, of course, things are going to continue as planned. Does anybody else see a problem with this? The timing. I'm sorry. I just don't believe in coincidences. Not like this. I think you were coming up on a re-election and now you need to change dynasties here. You need to go from Lazenby to Liggett. Well, you better give him a, really good cheering on to get him elected, to keep politics and possible corruption just the way it's always been, right? You don't want Thomas in here messing stuff up. I really don't know why this is not really a thing that people talk about. And this is going to be controversial. I know it. All the videos and the press conferences and everything that I have watched with Doug Carter, he really seems like such a good guy, doesn't he? I'm not saying that he's not. I don't know. But let me tell you something I recently learned about Doug Carter. And it really made me pretty sad. I learned this from Crime Night, another channel on YouTube, look, who has all of this in writing. So you can't misinterpret what is going on. Let's go back, way back, to around 2008, 2009, when Officer Shoemaker, he was actually a whistleblower. He had risen up through the ranks. He was promoted. And then he found some really bad stuff going on in Indiana as far as, law enforcement. Some of it was just, overtime and stuff that it was wrong, but it wasn't as bad, if that makes any sense. The thing that was really bad is it was false testimony and information being given to the courts by officers. So this was huge. This was huge. These are people's lives that we're talking about that's going to court. So when he found out, he blows the whistle. Okay. His boss at the time gives him a commendation. 3 officers are basically moved, sent out, whatever. They're out of the department. Now, because of his whistleblowing, Shoemaker was initially promoted. They got him in, got 3 of the bad guys out, and time passes from around 2008, 2009 to fast forward to 2013. Now, all of a sudden, his boss gets replaced by the brand new superintendent, who was Doug Carter. Now, okay, everybody has to leave their job at one time or another. Doug Carter was given that position by Mike Pence. Now, first of all, a lot of you are going to say, like my mom, she's like, I love Mike Pence. He's such a Christian man. No, he's not. He's not. Look at, it doesn't take very much to find out what he's involved in. And I keep trying to tell her, but look it up. Find out for yourself, and also find out who has said something against Mike Pence with proof. All of a sudden, they're unalived. Imagine that. I'm just getting way, way out of control here. Okay, let me take it down a notch. So, Mike Pence appoints Doug Carter. Doug Carter, the hero of the story, right? The one who's looking for the girls, yada, yada, yada. When he gets in office, one of the first things that he does is he removes Officer Shoemaker, demotes him. Yeah. Does this sound like the Mike Thomas affair? And hires back the 3 officers that had been sent out of the department for nefarious reasons. Wow, Doug Carter did that? Did he want to do that? I don't know. Or was he forced to do that by Mike Pence? That's a question that, I can't answer. But here's the way the game is played. If you want to keep your position and you want to keep your money and your power, then you listen to what the people above you are saying, don't you? Or you could end up with 4 gunshots to the chest and it being ruled you unalived yourself. We know how that goes, right? So if you watch Boys on the Tracks, what did you see about that story that parallels Delphi? To me, it is so very questionable. Now, I'm going to leave you with a few questions because y'all are really good about answering these. And, when I think something, you are able to tell me if I am wrong, and y'all don't hold back on that. But that's okay. Every time I look at this case from the beginning, there are some things that just drive me insane. One is they say that they have found pieces of clothing from one of the girls. I think it was Libby. And they also found her shoe on the bank. Kelsey actually found her shoe the next day. And they're searching right before the bodies were found. So here is my question. Let's talk about the search the night before because this drives me nuts. All right, we have everybody looking. It's not nighttime, but then they went on into the night. People are looking at the bridge, under the bridge, around the hills. We already know they're looking there, everywhere the girls could have been. Why did no one find this stuff the night before? You're out there with, Becky Patty said it looked like Christmas lights. There were lights everywhere. There were so many people out there on the trails that were looking for them that night. So how, right under the bridge, did you not see clothes or a shoe on the bank? I don't get it. This makes me wonder, were the girls even there? We've had several witnesses to say they searched the actual area where the girls were found the next day. Now, those have kind of been shut down, but if you look hard enough, you can find people who give the testimony that they were there in that same little area and the girls were not. Now, I don't know. Where were they? Here's another question. The guy that had the thermal imaging camera, he had a drone flying. This is when we assumed they were still, alive in the afternoon, evening hours of the 13th. He flew a drone overhead and you can clearly see, the people searching, like you can see the heat signatures. And you do not see any heat signatures from what they say now would have been the deceased bodies of Libby and Abby. And yeah, look, you can debunk the whole, it was cold thermal imaging. They still would have picked up, okay? Bottom line, you can go look into that, but they still, no matter how cold it was, it had not been long enough for them not to show up. So my question is, then where were the bodies? That guy, I just saw an update kind of from him in which he says, maybe I didn't fly it out far enough. Maybe I didn't actually hit that area. I wish I had. Now, in the first thing that I saw from him, he was sure he did. Do we have a situation where you need to just say you could have, be mistaken? Do you feel threatened or unsafe to say the truth? Or is that the truth? Maybe it is the truth. Maybe he just missed the area. But it didn't seem like it in the first video I saw where he's explaining that. So I have to question that. And the last thing that I really have to question is calling off the search. Yes, I understand it's cold. I understand it's dangerous. Not everybody should be out there. But since when do we call off searches? Because what if one of the girls had been injured and the other one was staying with her? Like, you can't leave somebody out in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter how cold it is. It doesn't matter how dangerous it is. You potentially have people who are alive out on the trails. This is unheard of. It's ridiculous is what it is. I'm just going to tell you, if that was my child out there, I would be raising unholy Cain. So that makes me wonder, is there another reason they called off the search? I don't know. You tell me. There's too many questions. There's too many similarities. I'm just not buying this whole story. You know, if Richard Allen was involved, then fine, he's involved. In my opinion, they are covering up for people, whether it's, you know, I don't even know that it's law enforcement, but let's just say public officials or somebody with power. They're covering up. That's just what I believe. Now, I know you're going to come at me. If you have an explanation for some of this stuff or, you know, whatever, I'll listen to you. Again, we think here. So that is all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed the Boys on the Tracks, and I hope that you are thinking about this case in Delphi. Let me know. I will see you later, and stay silky.